Hey, this is Gina Grad.
Hi, this is Teresa Strasser.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Errico.
Hey there, this is Casey Cavalier.
I'm Rocky Rose.
And you are listening to The Jay Franzi Show.
Lucky you.
Welcome to The Jay Franzi Show, a behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi.
Well, hello, and welcome to the show. I am Jay Franzi, and this is your backstage pass to the entertainment industry. This week, we get to talk with a living legend. We get to talk with William Lee Golden. We'll talk to him about what it's like working with his family, both the Oak Ridge Boys as well as the Goldens, his latest projects, and we'll discuss his hobby that he shares with his wife. Now, William is not only a living legend, but he is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and I can't wait to talk with him tonight. So if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. Now, let's get started. William, sir, how are you?
I'm doing good, Jay. Thanks for having me on the show here tonight.
It is my pleasure, sir. I've been waiting for this for some time now. I'm very excited. You've been an inspiration to me along the way. I've worked in the music business for just over 30, almost 35 years now, and you've been part of that the whole time.
Wow. Well, man, that's great. Thanks for allowing us to be a part of that.
It's been amazing, and that's part of what I want to talk to you about tonight. I mean, you've spent quite a bit of time with the Oak Ridge Boys, so much so that they've become like family to you. So how does that differ from working with your actual family?
Well, it's a lot the same in a way, when you're playing and singing in a group. It's a give and take thing. You got people, everybody's sacrificing being away from home, so their opinions sometimes and things that they need to express are as important as mine. And so it's being able to have a give and take in life, and same thing with your family, certainly with band members. And it is it's kind of a family thing with the Oak Ridge Boys, man. Like you said, we've been together over 50 years now this past year. Each one of us joined at a different time. I know I joined in 1965. Dwayne Allen joined a year and a half later in 1966. Then Richard joined in 1972. And Joe Bonsall joined in 1973. So last year was Joe's 50-year celebration. And so he made it through the end of the year. Then he had to get off the road because it became more than he could physically deal with. But it's God works in mysterious ways. And so what's happened is we've got a young guy. I've got grandkids older than Ben James, but he's got a great voice. Tony Brown said he's got a voice like Vince Gill. And if you like Vince Gill, you'll love Ben James, but he's 27, just turned 28 years old, and young guy that's an incredible high, lonesome sound singer. He sang with Doyle Lawson bluegrass group for a couple of years, and he was with Daley Benson there for about a year. We met him when he was with Daley and Benson on the show up in Wheeling, West Virginia, and didn't know at the time that, boom, Joe handed him the mic when they all come out to join us on Elvira and Bobby Sue at the end of our show. And Ben took off with the mic, and man, it was just magical. And so here, a year later, he's now our new singer filling in for our tenor spot and doing an incredible job at it too. And so he comes with Joe Bonsall's blessings, and that's a good thing.
That would be important. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing now. Besides, when I'm not out with the Oak Ridge Boys, then I'm out with my family, my kids and my grandkids. And we got a great band that plays with us, some stellar musicians that are great session players, and some of them play on the recordings that we do and have been for years. And so we like having those guys out on the road.
The pandemic was rough on everybody, but you seem to turn the pandemic into a positive. You came up with a lot of projects during the pandemic, one of them for the Oak Ridge Boys, 3 for the Goldens. So can you tell us a little bit about your approach to the creative process when it came to putting the Goldens project together?
Well, it was a vision that I had a couple of years prior to the pandemic, and I couldn't get my kids together. They had solo careers, and I was doing 150 dates on the road with the Oak Ridge Boys. And then the pandemic hit. They sent us all home, said you're unessential to go home, lock your doors, and put on 2 masks. If anybody knocks on your door, crawl under the bed.
Right.
So what I did is I watched television to try to find out what's going on. And I realized 2 or 3 weeks into this that I was allowing all of this negative hate, everybody hating everybody, into my house. And it was starting to affect me. I had to turn that negative hate crap off, everybody hating everybody. And I got out of the house. I went outside here under the trees. It was springtime. And all these old songs started coming into my mind. And it just flooded my mind with all these old songs. I called my kids over, my sons. We've all played music together before, but it's been a long time, been several years because of our individual careers and me back with the Oak Ridge Boys. But we started singing these old songs. From here, during the week, they told us we couldn't go to church. We'd get together and sing all these old gospel songs. Then during the week, we're singing all these classic old country songs. And by the weekend, we're singing some good old rock and roll songs that we all loved growing up and through the years, And my kids, some of them were inspired by a lot of great singers and great rock and roll singers. I used to take my kids to rock and roll shows when I'd be home on the road. And if Sound 70 was promoting a big rock and roll show down in Nashville at the Municipal, I'd try to get tickets and take my kids, buy tickets and go see the show. But I was always amazed at the difference in different rock and roll shows and the production. And there was a lot of things to absorb about all of that. And, you find out that in a way you're still educating yourself on the different facets and aspects of the entire music business. So where production is for a big live show, it takes a lot of people to make it all work right and to present your best presentation to the people that bought the tickets. So that's what's the bottom line, is they're actually the boss. And if they're not happy, nobody's happy.
Right.
It's kind of like being married.
I hear that. Absolutely. So at what point did you decide to take him into the studio?
Well, it was right off the bat.
Oh, really?
We decided, hey, we want to capture what we've got here and add to it. And so what we did is we went in and we up here just 2 miles from the house here at Ben Isaac's studio. He was just getting over COVID.
Oh, wow.
So we wound up going in the studio with a handful of close friends and incredible musicians and singers. We all started playing and singing these old songs.
So did you co-produce it with him?
I got Ben Isaacs. I got Michael Sykes, who's a guy that harmonies. These guys both specialize in harmony singing and producing harmony groups. I know Michael's produced the Oak Ridge Boys. Ben Isaac had produced the Oaks. And I worked with them in their working of their ability to create harmonies and how to get real nice chords and things, and which they did. They would be in this control room while we put the tracks down. And when the lead vocalist put his down, they would be in there harmonizing with each other and figuring out where the harmonies would be and how the chord structures would go. And a lot of them was chord structures that my sons was not normally used to singing those chords, actually, vocally. But it turned out to be magical. Having Ben, he comes from a family group, and having Michael there. And then I invited Buddy Cannon, the great Buddy Cannon, great producer. He produces Willie Nelson. He produces Kenny Chesney. And Buddy's a great producer and knows country music. I've known Buddy for a long time, and, way back when he was in the Statesiders with Mel Tillis. But anyhow, I wanted his input, and he recommended 3 songs that we wound up recording. Christopherson song, Me and Bobby McGee.
Oh, yeah.
Another one was a Johnny Cash song called I Still Miss Someone. Then Buddy Cannon recommended for me to try a take on The Long Black Veil. So I did, and anyhow, Buddy's presence seemed to bring the musicians, get the best out of everybody to relax and have fun.
So was it a traditional Nashville session where the 5 to 8 guys get in a room at one time, or was it overdubbed?
No, it was everybody was there. We were all able to get in with the 10 people. So we right off started recording what we're doing. And I got a longtime friend of mine, television producer and longtime friend, Jeff Panzer. I'd called Jeff and talked to him the day before we were going to go in the studio, and I was talking to the young guy who was going to get to do the camera work there. And I told Adam Wagner, the camera guy, he's a great musician too, that I wanted Jeff to be overseeing this and to be the producer and call the shots of how they shot that. And he did, and he and Jeff got together overnight, and the next day he had an iPhone on his camera, and Panzer's watching every shot and listening. He had cameras in the control room, listening to what the producers are saying, watching them, listening to them work out the parts, and different cameras in the room. I think we had 2 or 3 guys with handheld cameras, but Jeff was directing that from his home office in LA. And so we did. We've captured everything we did, 34 songs, and that was all captured in video, plus recording in real time.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, Jeff's a great guy, and I appreciate all that Jeff does. But having to produce something like that visually from, across the country, that requires an amazing amount of technology to go ahead and do all of that stuff. So when you're in the studio, that's not the typical technology you find in a recording studio. So is that something that you had to bring in and set up for that purpose?
What it was he talked with the camera guy, and it was fine with Ben Isaac, to have them in the studio. So they just come in before we were there, and they set up a camera in the room. And Jeff has access to those, so we're capturing everything going on. And then he pulls from it, goes back and watches what's happening on a certain scene. Jeff seems to have a photographic memory. I mean, if he sees it goes down, he don't forget it. He just knows basically back where it's at, and he can go pinpoint it. Have people like that was watching over everything we were doing, watching it as it kind of evolved and developed. So we went back at the end after we'd done cut a bunch of these old classic country things and a few of the old time rock and roll songs, or Rusty Cut Hollywood Nights, or Bob Seger song. I did the Long and Winding Road, Paul McCartney song. It's always been one of my favorite ballads, or beloved song, love ballad. Anyhow, man, it was so exhilarating to get in there and record, and I mean, it's just like each song was like taking us to another level.
So you took an awful lot of pride in picking the songs that you chose. I have a 14-year-old daughter. I have a 14, a 9, and a 2. And my 14-year-old daughter and I went on a road trip, and she asked if she could play her Spotify playlist in the car. And when she did, the cover of Peaceful Easy Feeling came on.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty slick for a 14-year-old who's into
That
Taylor
is,
Swift
wow.
and all that type of stuff. So,
Chris done a great job singing that too. That's my son, Chris, that did that. And we still do that when we're out playing regular shows. We still go back and feast on these great songs and keep them alive. A lot of these songs are standards.
oh yeah.
The songs that need to be kept alive.
Well, we talk about technology, and while we're talking about the studio, was this recorded analog or digital?
It was recorded digital. Digital recording. It was easy to, after you've got it, you've got everything, and you could go in and patch it up or take things out. You know how it goes. It's an amazing technology.
It makes life so much easier, yeah.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about the technology and recording digitally, and we're talking about the camera equipment and having him produce video from across the country, and obviously it's happening during the pandemic, what kind of challenges did you guys come across?
Well, it was some of the challenges, I guess, would be it took a little while to get it all mastered and, mixed, and everybody happy with the mix, and then get it mastered and to try to get it slowly released. And what we're doing now is we're still releasing videos that we did 2 years ago, and some of them 3 years ago, when we were first recording this back in 2020.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on that for a minute. You mentioned a few things there. Do you remember who mixed it?
Well, it was Ben Isaac was there, I know, and Mark Couch was one of the mixers, and then we had Pete Green was one of the mixers when we got into the songs like the Eagle songs, the Peaceful Easy Feeling, and Take It Easy. We did that song too. We did 2 Eagle songs out of all of that. And people that we inspired, their music inspired us, as a family. Anyhow, we put our harmonies to it. We also sang harmonies on songs that the original hits never had harmonies on. I thought that some of them it really lend themselves to that. They're sing-along songs.
Sure. Well, you mentioned a couple of things there, but as we're talking about inspiration, you mentioned people who inspired you. I mean, you've inspired so many people. So who are the people that inspired you?
Well, it all started early, like we're talking about a lot of the old Brando rock stars. And then as a teenager, being inspired by the first rock and rollers, Little Richard, Elvis Presley, Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
People in the beginning, then it was the people like the Platters and the Coasters and those type groups that I love these groups too. And to me, they were the harmony groups, I was into harmonies and stuff. The music business sometimes goes through things where harmonies were not part of it. It was more of a folk solo singer and bands that played their music, wrote their songs, and they're talented people that the songwriters, musicians, and singers. That's a lot of great talent out there that can do that too, and I admire that.
Well, you talk about the changes in the industry, and there have been quite a bit of changes in the industry over that period of time. But one of the things that you've gone through, I mean, is a change of genre over the years. I mean, starting in gospel and changing. What inspired the change to begin with?
Well, it was after being with the Oak Ridge Boys for about 10 years, and we had evolved, and we had just won some of the awards, albums of the years, things like that. But you realize that you're at the top of that business, and that there's not much further to go in the business side. And a lot of gospel music, as far as regular people, they only want to hear it on Sunday. And most people during the week, they want to hear other songs and other music maybe. And that's the way we are too. You're living 7 days a week, so why not sing about 7 days a week? And that's what the deal was for me, is what the Oak Ridge Boys had a talent. Let's expand our music. And the key to that was getting with Jim Halsey to manage the Oak Ridge Boys at a time, and to get us with booking, that we could make that transition from gospel music into country music. But it took people like that to get us there. To him getting the people from the label, the ABC Records originally, then MCA bought out ABC, and we become MCA. And a long, successful career there at MCA. A lot of great catalog that they have with Oak Ridge Boys. That's part of the Universal family. And anyhow, it seems like it all happened too quick. First thing you know, you look around, and a lot of your friends around you, and cohorts are one thing or another. They leave, they're gone, different things. And then you start realizing just how lucky we are to still be here sometimes. And then how much more you need to do than it is you feel you got to do in life. Things that you felt like you never have done that you need to do. And so it's things like that that motivates you. You have to motivate yourself. You have to activate yourself. They don't send it to you in the mail. It's something you've got to pack your bags and leave home and go out there to get it.
Well, you mentioned business a couple times, and you mentioned the label. Have you ever had any challenges with the label?
Well, you have those challenges earlier in the career, I feel like, when people are still trying to find their own footing and who they are. But in reality, we all continue to evolve and continue to evolve into whoever we evolve. And we also evolve because of the reflection of the people we associate ourselves with. If you're around other great entertainers and watching them work and sing and present what they do, you can be inspired by that. I like to go to other concerts too. I like to buy tickets and, like we talked earlier, go to rock and roll shows and look at all sides of it, the production, sound, the lights, and the music and how it's presented. But you still learn, man, and you realize every day that it seems like that things are changing. What was ways of doing business in the old days, it's all changed. Technology's changed.
It really does. It changes every day.
Yeah, it changes how we get our information.
Well, I want to get into that and talk to you about some of the changes that have happened over the years, especially in technology lately. But before we get off the business discussion real quick, were you ever afraid or concerned that you might lose your deal by making some of the changes that you guys have made over the years?
I felt like it was a natural evolution that we needed to pursue. The water will find its own level, but sometimes you got to take a chance. You got to go out on the limb and try new songs, try new rhythms, new this. But it's all in a song. You got 10 songs or 12 songs on an album. So every song don't need to sound the same. But you don't want a song that's going to spoil the whole album if they don't want to listen to it. They don't want to turn it off, when it gets to that song. But because I've listened to music that way, that you like most of the album, but there's two or three that you could jump past.
Right.
But I think everybody's like that.
Sure, absolutely. I know you guys are known for playing live and you have a love for playing live. You must love it to be doing it this long and to still be doing it at this stage of life, to be doing such a great job and to be in multiple bands and touring as much as you are right now. But if I could take you back to 1965 for just a minute when you joined the Oak Ridge Boys, what was going through your mind at that time?
At that time, I was a fan of the Oak Ridge Boys. They had cut some great albums that I thought had a more of appeal to a broader audience than what they were actually playing to. They were playing to a lot of the old school gospel audiences that had been built up over time by other groups, and you play a lot of package shows. The Oak Ridge Boys, you're inspired by a lot of things you're around. You realize sometimes that it's time to take chances, to move forward. Sometimes you look at where you're at and how you get there, and you assess everything around you. If you want to go forward and grow, there's things that you have to do sometimes, and you've got to prepare yourself and invest in yourself, invest in your own future. You can't expect other people to cough up the money for your ideas and your thoughts and your visions. If you really have them, you're also willing to put your money where your mouth is. So you're investing your own ideas, your own thoughts, and your own career.
Sure, and I think you've done that over time.
Yeah. But if you don't, it's, I can't imagine, I don't have anybody knocking my door down trying to hire me to come work for them doing whatever it is they're doing. You know what I mean? So, but I'm not out there knocking on doors seeing if I can be hired by those type people with other things in mind. I've worked at other things. I grew up on a farm, it's
Right.
Riding tractors and plowing tractors all day is something come easy and natural. But, and through the years, man, I've done other stuff. And it was just before I was with the Oak Ridge Boys, I worked at a paper mill, man, swing shifts. I worked in the pulp mill and back there where they make all these caustic chemicals and chemicals that break down wood chips and things like that, man. I mean, if you fell in a vat of that stuff, you could you dissolve in there.
Paper mills are tough. They have a smell to them,
Yeah.
a pretty strong smell. You mentioned in there working on a farm, and you've obviously had a great career in music, but do you ever miss being on a farm?
Sometimes I do, but in reality, we still have our old home place. And I get to go back to the home place and go back to the farm right
Do
where
you help on a tractor?
Yeah, and if I want to get on a tractor or my relatives help, they got new equipment. And
Sure.
anyhow, if I go back to sleep in the same bedroom I grew up sleeping as a kid growing up in life, and it's a different bed, but the same bedroom. It's a home my mother and dad built. I remember them building it, and I still got little notches on my shins from running across the floor joists when they were, before it had the flooring on it.
Yeah.
So as a little kid, doing that. Yeah, it's where I'm grounded at, and I don't ever forget where I come from.
So how often do you get to go back?
I try to go back 4 or 5 times a year. I was there 2 weeks ago, went down for a couple of weeks, went down for 5 days. Had to get back to Nashville.
It's just enough time to unwind and
Yeah.
get back
So I
to
got a good 5 days there, and I plan to go back here in another week or two, and then again later on, and maybe in July we got a break.
I just got back from Boston this past weekend, and I had an opportunity to go by my house where I grew up and stuff, just to see what it was like and see everything. So I understand what it's like to go back and just refresh a little bit.
Yeah, Boston's quite a place up there. It's a beautiful country up there too, man.
Great city. It's one of the best in the world.
We got to go to the ball games up there and stuff,
You go to the Red Sox, the baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dwayne Allen's a huge Red Sox fan. I mean, that's his team.
Fenway Park. There you go, Fenway. I'm wearing it tonight.
Yeah, I love that park.
It's the best baseball field ever. I love it.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of memories for me and my family. And then, of course, we got the Bruins and the Celtics that are in the playoffs right now. So Boston is definitely a sports town. And it's funny, when you grow up in Boston, you're not allowed to root for any other team ever, even when you move out. So I'm in Kentucky right now, but I'm still rooting for Boston for sure. All right, well, let's get back to this. The Oak Ridge Boys have had extreme longevity and so forth. What do you think keeps them relevant over the years?
Well, I think it's that we all love what we do first. We all love harmony type singing, and I think it's the fact that Dwayne Allen's been our longtime lead singer, and he also is a workhorse at going to the publishing companies where the songwriters are writing for, and going Dave Cobb. He has a stable of young writers, and this new album that we just recorded with Dave Cobb. It's not out yet, but I tell you, it's really been a fun album to do here in January. There's a song, and it's a song about mothers, It's like Mama's Boys. And every song is something to do about mamas and mothers.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. So, Dave Cobb, you know him. He's one of the premier producers in Nashville today. He's produced Chris Stapleton. He did the new Elvis movie, about going back to the original music that got started. That was Dave Cobb, made all that music in that movie. But he also produces a lot of other people, Jason Isbell, and he's a great guy to work with too.
Paul Lime was on about a month or two ago talking about the Elvis stuff, and he's the guy who played drums and all of that. Great guy, great musician. You've had an opportunity to win all sorts of accolades and awards during your time with the Oak Ridge Boys. What was it like when you won your first award?
Well, I remember when we first heard our first country song on the radio.
Which song was it?
It was the Y'all Come Back Selena. And then it was the title of our first country album. Our first single, it went to number 2 and stayed there for about 3 or 4 weeks. Here We Are, gospel group that had the first country album. And there's a song that we couldn't get past that stayed at number 1 for about 5 weeks, and that was a duo, the Kendall, with a song called Heaven's Just a Sin Away. So Heaven's Just a Sin Away kept the Y'all Come Back Saloon from going number 1.
So what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Well, it's a great feeling, but you feel like that that the industry has recognized hopefully your talent and your contribution to that year. Every year is a new year, and you start the new year, everybody at the same spot, so you gotta prove yourself each year. But it's and you still have to, you're as good as you are, and
as good as your last
you
project.
can be as bad as you are too. So,
well, speaking of that, what kind of setbacks have you had along the way?
well, it's sometimes setbacks can be opportunities.
Well, tell us about an opportunity that's coming your way.
Music is it's kind of like a pendulum. It swings this way and that way. And this style's in and that style's in. And it goes back to traditional, it'll swing way over here. And people wonder, oh, it's not country anymore. Then here it'll swing back the other way. Somebody will come along and take it right back to the core of where it really is.
Last year, I had an opportunity. My wife and I went up to see you guys play in Ohio, and it was a very small town, and it was a beautiful venue, just an old venue. Are there any venues that stand out in your mind from the shows over the years?
And we've been, I guess you start feeling older when you realize that you've been a part of an opening of a building. And then years later, here you are part of the last show at the building. But we've done that a time or two. Then, the Circus Star Theater was one of those examples, beautiful theater up in Maryville, Indiana. And we used to do Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve shows every year there for several years. But it was we were there with the first thing when it opened. It been 3 or 4, 5 years ago. They closed it, and tore it down, and I don't know, they're building a mall there now. Yeah.
Just what we need is another mall. So you've done a lot, and you've been, like I said, through so many changes, not only in the industry as far as music, but as far as business. So have you ever come into any challenges when it came working with a label and how to market your music?
Well, you always try to give your side of the story if you thought you had an idea. And, always willing to work with them and however they choose to market the group and places that they want you to go and things they would like you to do. And so it takes everybody working together. Again, it's not whoever's face is on the album. It takes a whole lot of people behind that to make it all.
What about image, like the band's image itself?
The image?
Yeah, for example, when you first grew out your beard, was that accepted?
Not wholeheartedly. I guess it maybe pushed the limits a little bit, but I had to go there. What it was all about, to see who I was. And, people, you can follow what everybody else wants you to do all your life and never know who in the world you are.
Right.
Sometimes it's the time to take a chance and go for it. And I knew at that time, at the time that I let it go, we were having success in country music and no one was complaining about it. There was a lot of people with a lot longer hair than I had at that time.
Well, it's just the change, right? You went from a pretty clean-cut person who was fairly into fashion and being on the cutting edge, and then you grow out that beard. How long did it take to grow out the beard?
I've not trimmed it since 1980. I mean, I don't trim anything. It's all what it is. And again, man, it's everything on your face has a different length, basically. And
that's funny.
With the real short stuff, and it don't get any longer. It's amazing how it is. But kind of getting to know myself is interesting. What happens when you quit trimming it? But anyhow.
That's pretty cool. I mean, we've talked about your music and we've talked about your beard. Can you tie that in and talk about your book a little bit?
Well, all that was done. I did an autobiography during the pandemic when I was recording with my family. Again, I turned off television and did not want to watch television there for several months, actually. Scott England called me and talked to me 4 or 5 times about wanting to write a book, and I never did have time. So during the pandemic, he called again, and I invited him down to the farm. I was there for about a week or 10 days, and I just got there and told him to come on down, and he could beat my sister and see where it all started. We'd just start the book as it started. And he did, and he'd bring his little recorder and a tablet with questions on it. And he'd come over 3 or 4 times a week, sit on my front porch for 2 hours with his little tape recorder on the table there between us, and he would ask questions. I said, well, man, you can ask anybody else we talk about. You know, you work with that, talk to other people here in my life. And so he did. He talked to Heritage Boys. He talked to our manager, Halsey, and Andrew. First person he talked to was my first wife. She got into some stories of my unfaithfulness that I was not going to get into in the book. But she did, and I can't deny it. See? So it's things like that. And I learned things in my own book that I didn't know she was telling what was going on behind the scenes when I was.
How did that affect your current family?
Well, my current wife is my fourth wife. When I was unfaithful, you know, it has consequences. I was loving 2 women. I love my wife and I love my girlfriend. So if you're not careful, you can wind up right by yourself, and that's kind of what I did. Anyhow, Simone is, I met Simone in California when she was young, and we were friends, but I was a lot older than her and didn't quite know, and she painted a portrait of me back then and brought it and gave it to me. Anyhow, we kind of lost touch. But she would come see us a few times, and I kind of got to know her. But she always had chaperones with her, and I had all the Oak Ridge Boys and band and crew around, and so it was hard to have personal time sometimes.
Right.
But again, I wondered about what happened to her, and later in life, we did see each other for 25 years, I guess, and she went her way and had a daughter, and her mother was originally from Amarillo, so they moved back there. But we've been married 8 years now, and we got together. I moved her to Tennessee, and we lived together for a couple of years before we got married. And but she knows my story, I guess. And
Sure.
you lie about who you are.
Well, it's all about who you are now.
You know, I'm just happy. I'm happy to have experienced a lot of things that I've done in life, and I wouldn't change that. I know I haven't been a person that sometimes that maybe I should have been, and the beautiful women were.
A vice.
One guy said, you know, minister said, was beautiful women your weakness? I said, no, they make me feel like I could pick up the back end of a loaded dump truck.
You mentioned in there that she did a portrait of you, and I know that a lot of people over the past several years have done portraits of you. I mean, tying back into your beard, it's become an iconic piece. But you and her have that in common, that you both like to paint. So
Yeah.
do you paint together, or do you just have different styles?
I've got paintings of hers hanging in the house here. Paintings she did when she was young and painting, but for some reason, we haven't found the time to set everything else aside and set it up and get a canvas and stand in front of it and decide what we're going to do. You know, it's how we're going to start it. But I think it'd be cool to do that. I'd love to do that with someone.
Sure. You do oil painting, watercolors. What kind of painting do you do?
I do acrylic, basically. That's how I started, was doing acrylic, but I really wanted to do some oil. Acrylic was, all of my paintings were done on the road with the Oak Ridge Boys. I'd take my easel, my canvas under the bus, and all my paint supplies, and I'd lug it up to the room at a hotel and try to sit up by a window. And I wouldn't turn on the television. I would lay out some of my photos as a reference and get in front of the canvas, and I'd slowly paint it. But I'm real slow. And what happens is it takes me 4, 5, 6 months to paint most paintings.
That's very cool. Do you miss it?
I do. It was something that I did on the road, and I found that I would get into it. Then at the end of the year, I would have 2 or 3 nice paintings something that I'd chosen to do and put my time into, and had something to show for it rather than sit and watch bad news or bad television.
Anything to keep your mind off what's going on around here. Sure.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, sir?
Well, it's just, again, we're out touring still with the Oak Ridge Boys 75 days this year. When I'm not doing that, I'm trying to book dates and go out and play and sing music with my sons and my grandkids. Got a couple of grandkids. Elijah's at Brown University, and
very impressive.
He's there on a scholarship, and he's also an incredible singer. He flies out and meets us on some weekends during the year, and then during the summer he comes home and goes out with us every weekend. We'll be going out several dates in June with the family.
How about Elizabeth?
She goes with us too, and I think she's got a deal at Disney that she's doing for most of the month of June, is what she found out a couple of weeks ago. Anyhow, Elizabeth goes with us too, and she travels and sings and plays violin. She plays fiddle and sings harmonies, and then sings lead on. She stops a show when she sings a song.
She's very talented and very impressive.
She is real talented.
No, they're a very talented bunch, and she is very talented. I saw a video of her recently playing the fiddle behind you guys, and she's just very talented for sure.
Yeah.
When you're reaching this point of your career and you're thinking about a legacy, what are you hoping to leave behind?
Well, man, I don't know. I mean, we're leaving everything behind, I guess, when we're gone. But it's when I look back at it, I've made a career out of basically. I sing more harmony than I do anything, and that's just been good for me. In other words, each guy in the group have had hit records singing. Each guy of the Oak Ridge Boys. Richard, the bass singer's had, he sang Dream On, was a big, huge single record. Dwayne's had a lot of hit records singing lead vocals, and Joe Bonzo had Elvira and several other songs singing lead vocals. And I've been fortunate to have 3 or 4 songs, Thank God for Kids, Ozark Mountain Jubilee, Trying to Love 2 Women, I Wish You Could Have Turned My Head and Left My Heart Alone. And some of those songs were songs that I sang.
Did you enjoy singing lead?
I did. I still do.
Very nice. All right, sir. Well, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we take a moment to shine the light on somebody who works behind the scenes or somebody who may have supported you along the way. Do you have anybody you'd like to shine a little light on?
Well, we've shined it on all my family here and my friends. Jeff Panzer is a close friend in L.A. We talk about Jeff, and, sometimes you lose friends and then you gain new friends. And He's managing Danny Stefanati.
Amazing talent herself.
And I've been so impressed with her talent as a singer, songwriter,
Amazing guitar player.
and guitar player especially. She's helped me write a song. It's something that I was struggling with, that she helped me finish it, take some of the parts that I didn't need in it, and help refine it for me to make a song out of it. So I can't wait to. And she's been here and stayed with Simone and I, and we cut some stuff together, a couple of songs.
Yes, she's absolutely amazing. She's actually the one who gave me this koala bear right here.
Really?
Yeah, she sent that to me just a couple weeks ago. It's my new friend.
Great. She is so talented, and I don't know of a sweeter person in the whole world. You know, she's from Australia, and she was in Nashville. I introduced her to people out at the Grand Ole Opry, and she charmed them with sit right there in the dressing room and pulled her guitar out and showed them what an incredible talent she is. It's good to meet people like that.
A big thanks to William for taking the time to share his stories with us, and thank you for taking the time to hang with me here. I know I've said it before, but I will say it again. I really do appreciate it. If you know another music fan that would enjoy this episode, please be sure to pass it along. You can do that and find the links to everything mentioned over at jfranzi.com/episode 72. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franzi Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranzi.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.